Picture this. You're sitting with your friends, other moms who have gone through a divorce or are contemplating, who maybe didn't picture their lives co-parenting, but are there with you. You're sharing your stories, you're inspiring each other, validating and challenging each other through your shared experiences. You're belly laughing, tearing up, and enjoying your favorite cup of coffee all at the same time. You don't judge each other. You empower each other to continue on your journey, to heal, and to just be you, whatever that looks like. Welcome to Co-Parenting and Coffee. Hey everyone, it's Allie and
Jill.
woohoo! Good to be back. We're really excited for our special guest today, but before we get to that, we wanted to give a little moment of uplift to get the show going. And Jill and I, we will often send each other inspirational quotes and of course, loads of funny memes throughout the day and week to get through, you know, parenting life, co-parenting life,
Mom life.
mom life. Yeah.
Life,
And
life.
so life. We wanted to share one with you, and this might be something we do periodically or regularly. I don't know, we're playing with it. But
The other
um,
thing is if you have a quote that really like sits with you or resonates with you, send it to us because we love quotes. So
yeah, seriously, share it, tag us. We love that stuff. So this one says that we chose for today. It says, if there's even a slight chance at getting something that will make you happy, risk it. Life's too short and happiness is too rare. And that's credited to A.R. Lucas. And I don't know who A.R. Lucas is, but I could not agree more.
I know. I love it. It's
Um,
it's important, I think, to think about your happiness. And I think you and I often say like we're not advocates for divorce, but we are advocates for being happy. And if that means in that process that you have to get divorced because you know that that's not going to that your marriage isn't working for whatever reason, that that's an important thing to realize.
yeah, I mean, I can distinctly remember the moment when, and this was actually a really long time before I got divorced, like months and months,
Hmm.
where I realized that the dreams and the happiness that I had hoped for
Hmm.
in my marriage weren't coming,
Yeah.
wasn't coming.
Yeah.
And so I did grieve that dream and that
Yeah.
hope. And then I realized that if I wanted to be the mom I wanted to be for my kids, and if I wanted to find happiness,
Hmm.
that I had to that this was the only way to get there.
Right. Yeah, you had
And
to put it on yourself to find that.
mhm.
Yeah.
And it was terrifying. Like,
Absolutely.
I think about people who are struggling and wrestling with the thought of doing, divorcing and the impact it would have on their kids. And, it was hard. It was hard on my kids. Sometimes it still is, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes, like, I mean, my 8-year-old still will say to me, like, it's really hard to have two houses. And I
Yeah.
believe that.
Hmm.
And I feel badly that it has to be this way, but I also know that if there were not two houses, that my poor kids would be in a whole different place.
Yeah.
And they are doing well,
Yeah.
right? They are.
Yeah. Oh, they definitely are. I think the risking it part is the part that I really liked about this quote is because I think I'm a little risk adverse
Mhm.
sometimes. And even like with starting this podcast, right?
Mhm.
Like we're like, but it's vulnerable, right? We're telling our stories, we're sharing who we are with you
Yeah.
guys. And but like the reward is so great. Like not just financial, hopefully financial, but but also the reward of getting to see other people become happy. Like that's amazing.
I have to say that, like, the thrill of hearing from people
Hmm.
that I listen to your podcast and I
Yes.
think it's great is like I'm just so grateful that they're listening.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, but the fact that they also like it
Yeah.
is so that alone is a huge reward. And the fact that some people are finding it helpful
Mhm.
is, that's what we wanted in the first place, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what I say often is like the reason I do this work is because I love seeing women like I don't love seeing them sad and coming in the depths of despair, but I love seeing them find themselves because that was,
Yeah.
I mean, in this horrific experience, that's the part that like you get to create who you are after this. And that's the opportunity part. And that's the part I love seeing.
Yeah. Oh my God. That just made me think of that song by, I'm a huge music dork. But that song by Natasha Bedingfield that, Unwritten,
Yeah.
that blank page,
Right.
right? The rest of the story is unwritten and it's for you to write.
Yeah.
And so I mean, how many times have we seen, particularly women, but people,
Hmm.
um, come through their divorce on the other side, right? They're out of the sort of the entanglement of like the negotiations and the can you believe and all that stuff
Yeah.
and the rising.
Yeah. Oh, it's my favorite part.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's the best. And get it like them realizing like who they really are or things that they discover about themselves along the way. It's just
Yeah.
amazing. And
It
it
is.
was such an awesome experience for me that I just love seeing it.
Well, I would love for folks to share their story of however they relate to this
Yeah.
segment. I
Yeah.
would love to be able to read someone's story about finding the courage or what their
Or
rising
success
looks
that
like.
they've had from from taking this, you know,
Mhm.
trip here.
I would love that. So if you have a story of courage or rising or anything like that, we would love to be able to share it with our community. So let
And
us
cheer
know.
you on.
Cool. All right. Well, should we get into the next segment and
Yes.
introduce George to the gang? All right, cool. All right, see y'all
Bye.
soon. Bye.
Hello, welcome to Co-Parenting and Coffee. And today we have George DiGregorio here from Zenith Mortgage, and he's a mortgage advisor. He's had 27 years of experience in the mortgage lending business and has helped thousands of homeowners with their financing needs. He's a lifelong Milford, Massachusetts resident and earned a solid reputation in his community based on his commitment to customer service and knowledge of the industry. And he is my former neighbor and the one that helped me get my house after my divorce. So I thought that he would be a great resource for everyone.
Welcome,
Welcome, George.
George.
Well, thanks for having me. Nice to meet everybody.
Yeah.
The sun's out, so it's a good start so far.
I know. Yesterday the sun was out like for the first time in, I don't know, 13 years, it feels
Mhm.
like.
Mm,
And I felt so much better.
yeah.
I didn't feel like I needed to take a nap all day, which was nice.
Mhm.
Excellent.
So I guess when you're going through a divorce, of course, usually your biggest asset is a house. And it comes up a lot in our support groups and a lot of questions. So we thought having someone who's knowledgeable about mortgages and stuff would be really important for our community. And I know a lot of people, and I'm sure you've experienced this a lot in the past couple of years, is with the mortgage interest rate increases and how that's affecting people's decisions about selling houses and buying new houses. So I guess my first question would be if you have a house in a divorce, I know that every situation is so different, right? But sort of what are your options when you're,
So generally, when people contact me, and whether it's one spouse or the other, they'll say, "Hey, I'm going through a divorce and I'm trying to figure out what to do with the house."
Mhm.
It's generally going to be one of three things that happens. I'm just going to use husband and wife just to make it simple.
Yeah.
The husband will buy out the wife and retain the property, or the wife will buy out the husband and retain the property, or they sell the house and they split the proceeds.
Mhm.
So it's going to go down one of those paths.
Mm.
And then we have to look at, the numbers that are involved. Can these people do what they want to do?
Right.
The rising house values have made that a little tricky.
Yeah.
I talk to people all the time that bought a house 10, 20 years ago, and they say, I couldn't even afford to buy my own house right now if I had to buy this house in this market.
Absolutely.
They look at a house they paid, $400,000 for 20 years ago, and now it's worth 700. And they're like, if I had to buy this house and come up with 140,000 down and have this $5,000, $6,000 payment.
Right.
So that's a big part of it, is the amount of equity that a lot of properties have grown to. It's tough to buy out the other party. So that is sometimes what steers people into having to sell the house and split the proceeds.
Right. And splitting the proceeds doesn't necessarily mean 50-50 split either. I mean, it so depends on the divorce, because some people split the proceeds in different ways depending on what they're negotiating or that stuff. That's more of a lawyer question, right, than a mortgage.
It depends. I mean, it's sometimes it is 50-50, but that's unusual because there's always, if someone has a home, they usually have other assets. They're going to have a 401k or an IRA or a bank account or interest in a second home or something. So you get a lot of trading going on where you have someone saying, oh, well, you know what? Once there's $100,000 of equity in the house, why don't you keep the house and I'll keep the $100,000 in the 401k. So sometimes we'll see things like that, or there's $100,000 of equity in the house and you can take 25 of it and I'll do this and this. There's a lot of things that get moved around.
Right.
I guess, and it depends. Sometimes people don't want anything to do with the house. They're like, you can have it, you can sell it. I don't care. I don't want it.
Right. Yeah, it just totally depends on the situation.
Every single divorce, and there's no name for these loans. We call them divorce refis, just so we kind of get an idea of what we're dealing with, that there's no real estate agents or buyer or seller or super critical timeline like there is on a purchase. Divorce refis, we have a time frame we want to work in, but it's not like super rigid, like, oh, if you don't close on this day, you're going to lose your deposit. None of that is hanging over your head when you're doing a refi going through a divorce.
Right. Another common thing I see or hear about is if one of the people can't assume the mortgage, and this, again, I'm not sure if this is a legal question or not. Sometimes they'll stay on the mortgage together, and then in their agreement say, we'll sell it when the youngest is, graduating high school or college or whatever, or a certain time in the future. Is there anything that you do with that?
So let's say it's a divorce where they're both agreeing, like, we want the kids to be in this house and have stability. And I know that, the wife can't really cover the payment and the husband can. Sometimes the husband's like, listen, I'll just stay on this mortgage and move out, and in lieu of child support, I'm going to pay the mortgage. Sometimes people swap money that way, or they'll say, okay, we're going to sell this house when the kid turns 18. So all these things are usually ironed out in the separation agreement and the divorce decree, which ultimately gets, signed by the judge and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no set way that any of them are done. I've seen that happen where, the husband's like, okay, I'm moving out and I want to buy another house. So I'm going to do this with this loan. Everything's got to be kind of viewed independently.
And if they do, like, if that scenario does happen where, say, the husband moves out and stuff, but keeps his name on the mortgage, that will really affect his ability to get another mortgage, correct?
Typically, yeah. I mean, if you have a signed divorce decree that says that it's the other spouse's responsibility to pay the mortgage, that can come into play. Sometimes an underwriter will say, I want to see canceled checks from this other party showing they're paying it. So there are case by case things they can do to work around it. But in general, I mean, the cleanest thing for everyone, if you're really going to part ways, is to just get rid of that mortgage and take out a mortgage in your own name. And we're speaking of, refinancing, retaining that marital home.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
But I guess the key to everything is you want everything documented, because that can be problematic when people like, well, I'm supposed to get child support, but I don't actually collect it. I just have him pay this bill instead. And he gives me cash. And I
Oh,
pay.
yeah.
That can cause all sorts of problems for both parties when they're trying to prove that they get child support or pay child support, or this person pays this bill. You just always want to document everything as cleanly as possible.
Yeah, that was my next question.
That's a good
Is
point.
can you
Yeah.
use child support as income when you're getting a mortgage?
Yes. The hiccup there is that they want to see receipt of 6 months on most type of loans. There are some here and there I come across that allow 3 months of receipt, but it's generally 6 months of receiving it. So if your divorce decree says you're supposed to get $3,000 a month, they want to see 6 bank statements showing $3,000 a month going in there. In Massachusetts, the easiest way is when it goes right through the Department of Revenue. You see these, DOR deposits going in.
Right.
What gets tricky is sometimes people like, oh, well, he paid his dental bill that month, so we deducted it to this. Or he gave me some cash, so it's only this. If it's not the same amount every month, they may reduce that month you're using to qualify. So you want to always keep it as straightforward as possible. Like cash child support, you can never use that. There's no way to document it.
Yeah.
I've had that happen. People are like, oh, he just pays me in cash. I'm like, well, you can't prove that. And there's no way to paper trail it. The unusual thing with child support, it's not taxable income.
Right.
So we actually grow it a bit. We increase it by 25%. So that's why I'll have someone look at their loan application, like, why'd you put this number down? I don't get that much. And the underwriter, to make it sort of have the same impact as W-2 taxable income, they will gross it up by 25%. So we can actually use more of the child support than it actually is in the calculations.
Yeah, that makes sense because it's not taxed. So
yeah, but it's 6 months is sort of the magic number. And it's problematic for folks. It's like, okay, we split. I have this chunk of money. I'm going to go buy a house. He has his job. He's going to go buy a house. Now I can't do anything for 6 months. What am I supposed to do? And unfortunately, a lot of those folks end up renting, or they're living with family.
Yeah.
Just
or they can live with George. George doesn't mind.
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple extra bedrooms there. Yeah, like I think I don't know if you had mentioned in the podcast that we've actually done this before, you and I.
Yes. Oh, I just said, yeah, you
And I don't know how much of your own personal journey you want to share on here.
I share pretty much everything.
So it's a lot of it is getting all those documents, and you had to come up with a suitcase full of documents more or less to make everything work.
There are going to be folks out there who have sold their house, they're renting, they're rebuilding their their financial life. What would you tell someone who's in that position? Obviously we're in Massachusetts, so it's a tough market with the cost of real estate and then the interest rates. If there's someone who has been through a divorce and wants to buy a place at some point, what are your top tips for that?
I guess talk to a mortgage professional and figure out what things cost. Or the problem is all these online calculators, all of these things out there, and the old saying is we're drowning in information and starving for knowledge. There's so much out there, and a lot of it can be inaccurate. You want to get an idea of what things really cost. And as an example, I'll say to first-time buyers, they're looking at a $400,000 house. I do this all day. I kind of have the numbers in my head. You buy a $400,000 house, it's going to be about $3,000 a month. You need about 20 grand to pull it off. And just as a rough set of numbers, like, oh, okay. And I'm like, that's just what stuff costs. And then we start to break it down as far as here's what principal and interest is. Here's what taxes are. Here's what insurance is. This is what you'll need for a down payment. This is what you'll need for closing costs and escrows. But I try to work in big numbers. And I'll say to someone, the types of houses you're looking at are going to be about this much a month. Let's say it's $3,000 and you're paying $1,800 in rent right now. Write yourself a check for $1,200, put into another account every month and see how painful it is. If it's easy and you're like, oh, this is nothing, then you're probably ready to move on and buy a house. If it's like, oh, this sucks. This is screwing up my entire life. I shouldn't do this. Then you know that maybe you shouldn't be looking at that particular price range or at this time,
Mhm.
because that's going to be the new reality. Just because a lender says you can spend this much a month doesn't mean you should.
Right.
Everyone spends
Right.
money differently. Like,
Mhm.
you know, my wife and I both work full time. We don't have any kids. So I can tell you we spend money very differently than
Mhm.
my coworker who has 4 kids.
Yeah.
You know, and that doesn't come into play at all in mortgage qualifying, which is
Right.
crazy. I mean, not that I want more regulation, but that's just how it is. There are these certain numbers that you're allowed to go to. So someone like my dad, who had 6 kids, would be limited to half of his monthly income as bills. And someone like me, who has no kids, is limited to half his monthly income as bills. So no matter what a bank tells you you can afford, that number shouldn't come from the bank. That should come from the client, because they don't want to write in that check every month.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know, and everyone spends money differently. Because
Sure.
some people, they'll say, you know, like I make 120 grand a year, I make 10 grand a month. I'm like, okay, you can carry 5 grand a month in bills. And like, I don't want to carry that much in bills. So like, I want
Right.
to payment at, you know, this.
Right.
So really the number should come from the client. But to go back to what I was saying earlier, figure out the difference between what you want to buy as a monthly payment and what you're paying in rent, and put that money aside, because that's the closest thing you're going to get to real world expenses.
Yeah. That's a
Yeah,
really great
that's a
tip.
really
I say the
Then
same
if
thing
you
to my
don't
first
buy a
time
house, you can
buyers.
go on like a really cool vacation at the end.
Or put it in your 403, 40,
But yeah,
Roth
wherever,
IRA. Your Roth IRA.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah, or you can do something responsible with it, Allie.
it's always, you know, it's always the roll of the dice when I see people divvying up the proceeds. Like when someone's like, I'm going to take the house and you can have the 401k.
Uh-huh.
And I've seen people, you know, get the 401k, then the market tanks, and I go, oh my God, I made the worst decision. Now my ex's house has gone up way in value. But usually, I mean, long term, real estate has appreciated almost every year over a 10-year period. If you look at, you know, the past 50 years, I think there was 1 year where if you didn't hold it for 10 years, it would have gone down. But in general, if you had X amount of dollars in 1995 and X amount of equity, you're probably going to have more money if you took the cash versus the property, but there's no guarantee of that.
Yeah.
Right. That's true.
That's why sometimes just making everything, you know, equitable is the safest bet. But
Yeah.
that's more of a divorce attorney negotiation.
Yeah. Just in your experience, anyways. So I see you taking a drink of your coffee, and we haven't talked about coffee yet. Allie, do you have your coffee with you?
Right over here.
Okay. So George, the very important question: what do you drink for coffee?
I drink. Oh my God! I just realized the sun moved, and I have this crazy sunlight on my face.
I saw you put a spotlight on.
No, there was a van parked outside the window. It just moves.
Uh,
Light on my face. All right, so I'm drinking my Amazon special Solimo dark roast because I get a monthly delivery of like, you know, 60 at a time. I literally am attached to a Dunkin' Donuts. My office is in Hopkinton, and it's a 2-unit building.
Massachusetts.
Our mortgage company is on one side, and Dunkin' Donuts is on the other side. So if I do run out of coffee, it is a 2-second walk next door to get coffee. But yeah, black coffee. Doctor said cholesterol's too high, so I got rid of the creamer, no sugar, black coffee.
That's like a true coffee drinker, I think.
Yeah.
Black coffee.
You'd think I'd drink a better coffee since I drink it black, but I go for
The ease.
the cheapies. But yeah,
I don't know.
black.
Well, because I drink iced coffee, I'm not a K-cup person. Because I drink iced coffee, that's like too much work, I think.
Yeah, because if I want to make iced coffee in the summer and I use the Keurig, then you got to dump a bunch of ice and it immediately melts it and makes it like super watery.
Right. Yeah.
You almost have to make it ahead of time. Make the coffee, stick in the fridge overnight.
Right. That's what I do.
Why I just drink it hot. No,
yeah, these are the important
adjustments
questions.
Less of a process, I would say. I don't know. I can't.
Oh my God.
So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff to go over, but I guess ultimately you want to go into this with your eyes open. The more stuff you know, the better decisions you're going to make. And you're going through a ton of other stuff.
Right.
With your life's being turned upside down. It is traumatic to go through the process. I've just seen so many people go through it. So you want to kind of start early. Like I'm working with a girl right now who knew that it was going to be about 3 or 4 months out, And she started the process just so she would have that anxiety gone by the time this all came. She wasn't trying to do 30 things at once. She's like, okay, this big piece of this transaction is now settled, or at least I know what I'm going to do, instead of trying to figure out all this stuff at the same time. It's too much. It's overwhelming.
Yeah. So if you call, like, if you're not necessarily ready to buy, but you can call like a mortgage person like yourself and kind of get a path to buying.
Absolutely. Because,
Yeah.
sometimes you'll sit down with someone, they'll say, you just started getting child support. We're not going to be able to do anything, but here's what you should be doing over the next few months to get yourself in that position. And there are a lot of first-time buyer programs that are not specifically, what's the word I'm looking for? They're not restricted to first-time buyers, because a lot of newly divorced folks and first-time buyers have the same financial sort of backup makeup, whereas they don't have a big down payment. Maybe their credit got beat up, and so like FHA loans, they're not limited to first-time buyers. There are a couple of other programs through the state of Massachusetts that aren't limited to first-time buyers. So you have all these different things that, because they realize that they call them displaced homemakers. They're like, okay, you've been forced out of your home, but now you don't have any money because you had to pay all these fees or buy out equity. So they're trying to not put people in a bad spot just because they had to go through a divorce.
That's very cool.
It's like the first time I've ever heard people being generous in some way to people who've been through a divorce. It's amazing. Where can people find more information about those kinds of?
Man, there's so many things out there. So you have probably, I'd say, 4 major sources of finance. You have your conforming loans that everyone out there does, the 30, 20, 15-year fixed. They call those Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac loans. Every lender does those. That's your kind of vanilla loans. Then you have government loans, which are FHA, VA, USDA, and not everyone does those. You have to find a lender that does government loans. And then the third type of state loans, like in Massachusetts, we have Mass Housing Finance Agency. Rhode Island has their own version. Connecticut has their own version. And then lenders do portfolio loans. Like I worked at a local bank for years, and they would lend out their own money, and they would custom tailor some programs to first-time buyers or displaced homemakers. But like everyone's going to do conforming loans, and then you'll find that most lenders will do government. The state programs and portfolio, those are going to be specific to each lender. So it's kind of hard to point someone in one general direction. They're kind of all over the place.
So then your best bet really is to find a good.
We talk to me because as a broker. So what I do, like when I work at the bank, we had 1 30-year fixed. That's it. Here's the 30-year fixed, and here's the rate, and that's all there is to it. As a broker, I work with like, I don't know, 12 or 14 different banks. So if this loan doesn't fit here, well, then maybe I can put it over there. At one time, I was working through one of our lenders that was using 3 months of child support instead of 6. So I was putting a lot of loans through that particular lender for people in that situation. So working with the broker, we have a big portfolio of loans. I might not have everything out there, but I have most of it. Or I just know everybody, so I can probably find the right place to send you if I can't help you.
And what about credit? Like you were saying, about credit, like what is the sort of cutoff for a credit number? Like if, I know, of course, the higher the better, right? But
yeah, the scoring model, it's like, it makes absolutely no sense. The scoring model, it goes from like 313 to 832. Why it doesn't go from 1 to 100, I have no idea. And there are 3 major repositories. You have Experian, you have Transaction, you have Equifax, and they each have different models. So if you have the same data with all 3, you're still going to get 3 different scores. You might get a 742, a 750, and a 716 or something. Like, it's bizarre how they come up with their scoring, but generally 7 and 40 and higher is going to give you usually like A plus credit. Every 20 points on a conforming style loan, slightly different pricing on the interest rate. So 740, let's say your A credit. If you have a 738, you get knocked down a little tiny tick. The government loans don't get quite so picky on scoring. They're either like pass or fail, whereas The conforming style loans, they're much more rigid on these 20-point blocks. 620 is the minimum on a conforming loan. Anything under that, you're looking at, FHA loans, government loans. And everyone asks the same thing, like, well, why is your credit you're giving me different than what I see on my credit report?
Right.
Because most folks are getting it off their credit card. Like the Discover card, your Visa card will show your score at the bottom, or they use Credit Karma. They're using the Vantage model. Now, Vantage isn't the same as the Fair Isaac FICO that mortgage lenders use. They're starting to change that a bit, but in general, the stuff you get on your credit card, Credit Karma, if you look at the fine print, it usually says we use the Vantage scoring system. And it's not like, Celsius and Fahrenheit. It's not wildly different. It's more like a meter and a yard. They're pretty close to each other. But in general, those Vantage scores report higher than what we have on the Fair Isaac FICOs. And unfortunately, I'm not an attorney, but if you go through divorce proceedings and the court is ordering one spouse to pay off certain bills that your name might be on, that's all well and good. But if they don't pay him, it still screws up your credit.
Yeah.
I run into that all the time. Like, oh, why X was supposed to pay the Discover card? I'm like, well, he hasn't. Now your FICO score is really low. And yes, he was court ordered to do that. He didn't do it. Or she was court ordered to pay this and she didn't do it. That's why when people, make the split, I'm like, close out any joint accounts because it's just becomes a loose end, frankly. It's a big pain in the neck.
Yeah. And I remember when I was getting my mortgage, you saying like, don't do anything right now. Like, don't buy anything.
Don't open a Nordstrom card. Yeah.
Like, you're here right now. Don't move until this is signed and done.
And I don't remember the exact specifics of why I said that, but if I had to guess, you probably had like a 700 FICO. Once you go to 699, that rate hit is substantial. And your debt to income ratio may have been like right on the cusp. Or if I had to go up in a rate, maybe the loan didn't work, or maybe you have to pay fees to get the rate down. And regardless of, this has nothing to do with divorces, but just in general, once you've submitted paperwork to a mortgage person, you can inadvertently change it, and now things aren't going to be what you expect at the end by doing things you wouldn't even think of. I've had people go buy a mattress and says, oh, no payments for a year. So they sign some paperwork. My credit monitoring pings the file and says, hey, these people open a new account. And then I can get that account and make sure it didn't change your credit score. And I had someone buy, they had a timeshare, they were on vacation, and they re-upped their timeshare. Well, that made a credit check and a new account, and I had to make sure it qualified. So anything you do where you give your social security number, it usually results in a credit pull, which will ping the lender if you have a loan in process.
Right.
But that's probably what I was referring to, because I usually drill that into my clients' heads. I'm like, don't open any new credit, don't quit your job, don't rob a bank, don't steal an airplane, like just chill.
You can't even rob a bank. I mean, that's more cash for your job.
I had a kid threatening to quit his job, 2-3 days before closing. He's like, I hate my boss. I'm like, don't quit your job. They will call and do a verbal verification. If they say that, Jimmy quit, well, now your loan gets declined and you lose your down payment and all sorts of bad things happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, people do strange things sometimes.
Yeah.
It's always better to ask ahead of time. Sometimes people are like, oh, I want to buy some furniture on my credit card. Is that okay? I'm like, yeah, usually that's okay. Just don't open a store credit card. Use your existing card. Because some people get too worried about things, cause themselves problems. We call it drinking from the fire hose. There's a ton of info coming at you. So I try to start with big numbers and kind of crunch them down. The more you hear the stuff, the more it gels. It is a lot to take in, especially if you weren't the one that handled this stuff in the past. Those are the folks that tend to have the most anxiety, is if your wife paid all the bills and your wife did all of the money handling, and now you're suddenly thrust into this as an adult 15 years deep. It's a lot to take in. It can be very frustrating.
Right. Well, I feel like this has been super informative. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I was expecting to see Fiona run by the background.
Oh, she's at school.
No.
We have a new story to share, and we really want to thank the person that sent this in.
Yes.
As always, we're keeping it anonymous so that anybody can share their stories. We feel that this segment is so important because throughout all of our journeys, even though we're so different and our experiences and families are so different, there's a lot of pieces in these stories that you can relate to and understand, and just not feel so alone. So this person actually titled their story, which I love, and it's called Not Having the Best Situation, but Seeing the Best in Your Situation is the Key to Happiness. Here it goes. It was a crisp, sunny fall day that I unfortunately will never forget. As I opened up the window in my bedroom, he came into the room and said, "I don't know how to tell you this, but," name of girl, "and I hooked up." He dropped to his knees and forcefully shed a few tears. I proceeded to ask questions pertaining to how far that they went, and he told me they didn't have sex. I thought, oh, at least they didn't have sex. This could be the turning point of our marriage. He will now focus on me and the kids. He will pay attention to me and finally fix our intimacy issues or lack of intimacy due to ED, erectile dysfunction / porn addiction. This doesn't have to be the end. Looking back at that moment, I wanted to smack my 2022 self. How stupid of me to think I could continue a life with a lying, cheating narcissist. Like many bad relationships, with or without a narcissist, sometimes you just don't see it until you're out. I later on found out that they indeed had sex and they were planning on a blended family. I asked if he would have ever told me about the affair, and he said eventually, when I felt like I'd have a safe space to tell you my feelings. Bullshit. I've always provided him a safe space and supported him through everything. I said if he had to be on Viagra for the rest of his life, I would always love him. How much more supportive could I have been? Instead, from day one, when I pushed him to address the intimacy issues, he turned the tables and blamed me for his lack of interest. It was always me getting mad or me not letting him do XYZ. I fell for it. For 15 years, I kept on asking if there was anything wrong with me. I mean, I'm no Giselle, but I'm far from disgusting or repulsive. And hey, let's be honest here, men love sex and doesn't even have to be with a hottie. So yeah, red flag ignored, but I thought it was a medical condition. What I didn't realize though was the years and years of mental abuse that was happening. All that blame that caused all my doubts of self-worth. How dumb that I could have let that happen. Everyone keeps on saying it's hard to realize it when you're in it and just going through the daily motions of life. I knew I was unhappy, but kept thinking none of this stuff is grounds for divorce and tearing apart my family. But the cheating, yes, this is a reason for divorce. Him being the true narcissist that he is, has, in his head, made me the villain. He insists that the sole reason he cheated was because I gave up on the marriage. He is guilty of a lot of things, so he keeps on thinking I'm trying to use the kids to get back at him and continues to torture me because he's losing control over me. Toxic people project their own character defects onto their victims. They do this by accusing the victim of the exact actions that they themselves do. I would never have described him as toxic, but he's definitely showing his true colors now. I'm free of that, and it's like a breath of fresh air. As hurt as I was and still am, I feel like this might be the best thing that has ever happened to me. Yes, I've wasted 15 years of my life, but I've gained 2 beautiful children.
Wow, what a powerful story.
I know, and so relatable to so many stories, I think. I think the part that I can relate to, although my situation was much different, is it's like blaming yourself, always blaming
Mhm.
yourself. Like it's,
How
so
can I be better? How can I be different? How can I change to make this work?
right.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
And the other one, the other piece that really struck me was that, there were so many reasons, right? But it wasn't until there was the admission of cheating, right? That
Yep.
sort of was like that was the straw that broke the camel's back. And I think for so many people, it's like, but he doesn't beat me, right?
Right.
And I think that people don't understand, and I'm hoping that at some point we can talk about abuse and have someone on to talk about that. Um but that it can be very insidious the way that people can be emotionally abused, and it's not talked about enough. So
Agreed.
I'm grateful and proud of this person for sharing. And
Yes, thank you for sharing so much. And if you have a story, wherever you are, we want to hear your stories because we think they really do help other women. So thank you. And they don't have to be sad stories either. They can be something that you've conquered, or
Mhm.
any kind of story from your divorce to where you are now. We love to hear them.
Agreed. Well, thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for Co-Parenting and Coffee. This podcast is provided for informational purposes only and should not be construed as legal advice on any subject matter. If you liked our podcast, feel free to drop us a review. We'd appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing you next time for a cup of coffee and a chat with another expert on co-parenting.